Are you struggling with understanding how functions and function parameters work? Well, in this video I'm going to teach you what JavaScript functions are, how and why to use them, and also how you can customize your functions using parameters. If we haven't met before, my name is Tuomo, and on this channel I upload videos about modern web development. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you stay up to date on all the latest videos. It's also a great way to support this channel and let me know that this kind of videos are appreciated. Okay, step number 1. What is a function? Well, basically, a function is a part of code that does a specific thing. You could compare it, for example, a recipe when you are cooking. When you are cooking, you can do one thing, say for example a cake, with a recipe. You can use that recipe multiple times and you will always get the same result, the cake. Well, same goes with functions too. Function is responsible for doing one thing and it can be used multiple times. Functions can also optionally return a value when the function is executed. But more on this in just a bit. Step 2. How to create a function. There are a couple of different ways we can create or declare a function, but we won't go through all of them here and rather concentrate on learning one way. The most common way to declare a function is with the function keyword. This is an example of simple function that returns a string that welcomes user to the video. Remember how we talked about functions that can return values? Well, here is an example of that. Returning a value from a function happens with the return keyword. When declaring a function, we first use the function keyword. Followed by that is the function name, which in this case is say welcome. This should always be something descriptive for what the function does, so it is easier to understand the purpose of the function when reading the code. And the name is also what we use to call the function with. After the name is parentheses, and inside the parentheses we can place parameters for the function. Don't worry about parameters yet, we will take a look at them in just a bit. After the parentheses comes curly braces, and between the curly braces is the function body. When you hear a term like inside the function, that refers to the function body. We can place multiple statements inside the function and all of them are executed when we call or invoke the function. It's important to note that the code inside the function is not executed when we define the function. So in order to execute the function, we want to call or invoke it. As mentioned before, this is done by using the function name followed by parentheses. And step 3, function parameters. Most of the time when using functions, you realize that the function needs some additional information in order to work correctly. Well, this is where parameters come in. Let's take our sayWelcome function for example. Say we wanted to use this function to welcome every user by their name and the country they live in. That would not be possible right now because the function just returns welcome to the video. To accomplish this, we want to pass in the user name and the country as parameters for the function. Parameters are essentially placeholders for information and their names doesn't matter, but it's important to note that the order does. Function parameters are defined between the parentheses after the function name, and there can be multiple parameters for one function. Now we can use these parameters inside the function and return a welcome that includes the user's name and country. So now we have the parameters defined for our function. Now whenever we use this function, we need to pass in the values for the user's name and country parameters. And it's important to remember that the parameters need to be in the same order as they are in the function declaration. So now when calling the function, we pass in a value for the user's name first, and then a value for the country separated with comma. And if we want to use this function for another user, we can do so by just changing the values for the parameters. Now that you have a basic understanding about functions, the final thing I want to show you is why you should use them. First, if you name and use your functions wisely, they make it a lot easier to read and understand the code. For example, let's say you have a user object with properties first name and last name, and you need it to display the user's full name. You could do this by referring to the first name and last name properties in every place you need to display the full name. But a better solution would be to create a function that takes a user object as a parameter and then returns the user's full name. Now when you are calling a function to display the user's full name rather than referring the user object and appending the names, it's much easier at first glance to understand what's going on. This might not seem so big of a thing in this example, but trust me, when you are dealing with more complicated situations, you definitely want to be using functions. Another big benefit of using functions is reusability. There is a term in programming called DRY, which stands for Don't Repeat Yourself. If you have a task that you do multiple times in your code, there is no point to write a code for that task over and over again every time you need it. Because functions can be reused, meaning they can be called multiple times, you should rather create a function for your task and then just call the function wherever you need to do that task. This also comes in handy when you need to make a change. Say for example that we wanted to make a change that the user's last name comes first and the first name comes second whenever we display the user's full name. If we didn't use a function for displaying full name, we would need to find every place we display user's full name and change it there. But if we use the getFullName function, we can just make the change in one place inside the function, and right away the change is applied everywhere we display the user's full name. In this video we went through 3 steps on how to learn JavaScript functions, and you should now have a basic understanding on how functions in JavaScript work. I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel so you stay up to date on more videos like this. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.